It started like any other ordinary day. The sun rose over Earth's eastern hemisphere, casting long shadows across the bustling cities of the world. But that morning, a signal was received, a transmission unlike any humans had ever encountered before. It was not a message in any language known to mankind. It wasn't even a signal of human origin. It was something else, something alien. The United Nations swiftly called a meeting to discuss this unexpected turn of events. For once, there was no debate over the legitimacy of the message. The whole world knew that what they were receiving was real. The alien signal was clear, but its purpose was far from obvious. There were no requests for resources or demands for war. The transmission was something much simpler, a demand for a meeting. They wanted to talk. Chapter 2: The Arrival. Within days, the first alien ships arrived. At first, they looked like giant, twisting metallic vines, shimmering and pulsating as they floated over Earth's major cities. The world held its breath, unsure of what to expect. Then, as if in perfect coordination, the alien ships descended slowly into the atmosphere, hovering above their designated landing zones. A sense of calm settled over the world's leaders. The aliens weren't here to attack. They weren't even here to invade. All they wanted was an audience, and they would have one. The meeting took place in Geneva, Switzerland. The world's top diplomats, military leaders, and scientists gathered in a massive, secure conference room. There were no walls in the room, just a circle of chairs facing one another, with the alien delegates seated in the center. The alien beings, which were not humanoid in the slightest, appeared to be an amalgamation of geometric shapes, translucent surfaces, and radiant energy. They shimmered with an internal light, their forms shifting and changing constantly, making it impossible for anyone to focus on a single feature. Despite their strange appearance, the room was peaceful. No one dared speak, waiting for the aliens to make the first move. It was only after a few minutes that the aliens initiated communication, transmitting an image onto a large screen in the center of the room. It was a simple picture, Earth. But it was a picture of Earth's inevitable end. Chapter 3: The Prophecy. The aliens spoke in a deep, resonant voice, one that reverberated through the bones of every person present. Their language was not of words, but of thought, a direct transmission of meaning into the minds of the humans in the room. It was instantaneous and overwhelming. "You are not the first to attempt to defend your planet," the voice said. "We have encountered many civilizations, and we know the weakness of your species." A wave of discomfort rippled through the room. Everyone felt it, a strange sinking sensation, as if the ground beneath them was beginning to disappear. The alien intelligence continued, unfazed by the unease it had caused. "The war will begin soon, and we will destroy you. But first, we offer you a chance to escape your fate." The screen shifted, showing flashes of advanced weaponry, beams of energy, projectiles, and vast armadas of ships, all poised to annihilate humanity. The aliens made no attempt to hide their power. There was no mistaking their superiority. The humans were terrified. They didn't even know who these beings were or why they had chosen to make contact. But the aliens were calm, almost serene, in their confidence. "To save yourselves, we give you 30 seconds. The message echoed in their minds, and before anyone could ask for clarification, the aliens continued. "The next 30 seconds will determine the outcome of this war. You will either find a way to survive or you will perish. Choose wisely." And just like that, everything shifted. Chapter 4: The Panic. A collective gasp filled the room as the alien transmission ended, and for a moment, there was only silence. The humans stared at each other, unsure of what they had just witnessed. No one spoke, because no one knew what to say. It was as if they had all just witnessed the end of humanity flash before their eyes. The world's leaders immediately began speaking over each other, demanding explanations, organizing military strategies, and calling for emergency meetings with scientific experts. But the one thing they didn't do was ask the most crucial question. What exactly did they mean by 30 seconds? Amid the confusion, Colonel Jenna Park of the United States Army was the first to speak up, her voice cutting through the noise. "We have no idea what they're talking about," she said. "Do they mean 30 seconds to make a decision? 30 seconds to launch a counterattack? We don't even know what their weaponry looks like. What if we don't do something right now?" A hushed silence fell over the room again. The humans had no response to that. Time was ticking away, but no one knew how to act, or if they even could. Chapter 5: The Countdown. As the minutes dragged on, a cold realization began to settle over the room. The aliens had given them 30 seconds to prove humanity's worth, to respond to an unknown threat in a way that would save them. Yet here they were, scrambling, dithering over the details. General Marco Hernandez, head of NATO's strategic defense, was the first to act. He slammed his fist onto the table, looking directly at the representatives from the world's military powers. "We need to fight back," he said, his voice steady, but filled with an edge of desperation. "We need to launch a full-scale counteroffensive now." But before anyone could respond, Alara Ming, the Chinese ambassador to the UN, spoke up with a terrifyingly calm voice. "Fighting back is exactly what we should not do," she said. "What if their 30 seconds isn't about fighting? What if it's about how we respond as a species? We don't even understand what they want from us." "Then we should prepare to die," General Hernandez shot back. "Because sitting here and talking won't get us anywhere." Chapter 6: The First Mistake. As the debate continued, every passing moment felt like an eternity. There was a palpable sense of urgency in the air, as if humanity had already missed its chance. The clock was ticking, but no one knew exactly how much time they had left. Then, just as the situation reached its peak of hysteria, the first mistake was made. In the midst of the chaos, Colonel Park gave the order to deploy a satellite-based weapons system designed to combat incoming missile threats. The system had been activated as a last-ditch effort to intercept any incoming enemy projectiles, assuming the aliens would launch an immediate attack. The order was given without full coordination from the international military councils. It was an instinctive move, based on the fear of not acting quickly enough. The countdown had begun, but the humans had made the fatal error of assuming that the alien forces would follow traditional warfare protocols. The alien ships responded instantly. Chapter 7: The Response. The human satellite-based weapons system was activated, and just seconds after the order was given, the system fired a barrage of missiles at the nearest alien vessel. It was the first act of aggression humanity had made against the invaders, and it would be the last. The alien ships absorbed the missiles with ease. Their shields, made from unknown materials, deflected the incoming projectiles without so much as a ripple. The retaliation was swift. The aliens didn't need to fire a single weapon. Instead, their energy pulses overloaded Earth's defenses, causing massive electromagnetic pulses that disabled every weapon system on the planet. In less than 30 seconds, the war was over. The world's power grids collapsed, communications went silent, and every attempt to launch military strikes was rendered futile. Human forces, once so confident in their ability to fight back, were now helpless. The alien fleet, unharmed and undeterred, watched as Earth's technological infrastructure crumbled. Chapter 8: The Last Transmission. As the smoke cleared, the alien fleet communicated once more. The voice, resonant and confident, filled the minds of humanity's leaders. "You have chosen your fate. Your weakness is clear. You could not resist your instinct to fight, even when your survival depended on cooperation. This war is over before it began." The aliens did not ask for surrender. They did not demand Earth's submission. They simply left. Their ships departed without a trace, leaving behind only the ruins of human civilization. What had seemed like an opportunity for dialogue had become the most catastrophic misstep humanity could have made. Chapter 9: Aftermath. The world was left in shock. Cities that had once thrived with life were now desolate. The electromagnetic pulses had destroyed most of humanity's technological infrastructure, and without the ability to communicate, coordinate, or fight back, humanity was left vulnerable. The world's governments were in disarray, unable to contact each other, and desperate for answers. But there was one certainty. They had lost the war in 30 seconds. Chapter 10 Reflection. In the aftermath, as Earth began to rebuild itself from the ashes, the true lesson became apparent. The war had been lost not because humanity was outmatched militarily, but because it had not understood the true nature of the alien threat. The aliens had offered a choice, a chance to avoid conflict, but humanity's reflexive need to fight had sealed its fate. In the end, the question remained, could humanity ever truly learn to resist the urge to fight, even when the cost of doing so was extinction? The answer, unfortunately, was clear. And that was how humanity lost an alien war in 30 seconds. Chapter 11 The Reckoning. The days following the aliens' departure felt like a slow-motion collapse. Governments scrambled to restore order, but communication across the world was fractured. Power grids had failed, satellites were down, and the internet, once the lifeblood of civilization, was now a ghost. Some cities were abandoned completely, their populations fleeing in terror or searching for any means of survival. The global economy, which had been intricately woven together by digital systems and communication networks, crumbled under the strain. Without access to transportation, essential supplies, or trade routes, the world was plunged into chaos. Governments that once prided themselves on technological sophistication were now rendered helpless, relying on outdated systems and desperate measures to maintain even the semblance of order. But amidst the chaos, there were whispers of something else, something that no one had expected. The aliens will return, they said. They always do. For the first time since the initial panic, there was a collective feeling of dread. Not just because of the aliens' immense power, but because of the way humanity had failed to understand their true nature. Chapter 12 The True Nature of the Enemy. The aliens had shown no interest in outright destruction. Their weapons capable of rendering Earth's most advanced technologies useless in a matter of seconds had been employed with eerie precision. Yet they had not engaged in a single direct attack on humanity. They hadn't fired a single shot, yet humanity had still fallen to their might. The more the global leaders discussed the situation in the months that followed, the clearer it became. The aliens were not simply a species of conquerors, but of evaluators. They didn't seek domination, they tested civilizations to see how they responded under pressure. Their technology, their weapons, their power, were all designed to push species to their breaking point and observe the result. Colonel Jenna Park, who had made the decision to fire the satellite-based weapons system, sat in the dimly lit war room of the Pentagon, watching the news from across the world. She had always been a military strategist, someone who prided herself on quick, decisive action, but her decisions had been born of fear, not wisdom. How could we have been so reckless? She muttered to herself, leaning back in her chair. The weight of the decision was overwhelming. We didn't even think. We acted out of fear. We didn't stop to consider the consequences. Her reflection was interrupted when a high-ranking officer entered the room. Colonel, we've just received a transmission. A few signals are coming through, the officer said. His voice was tense, but there was a hint of hope in it. They seemed to be responses from alien ships. It could be a sign that they're still watching us. Jenna stood up, her hands shaking slightly as she nodded. Patch it through to my terminal. Chapter 13 The Reconnection. The screen flickered as the signal was established. This time, it was different from before. There was no majestic transmission flooding the minds of world leaders. No resounding voice. Instead, it was a simple, direct communication, a message in an encrypted code that seemed to adapt to humanity's languages. As the text materialized on the screen, Jenna's heart skipped a beat. You were tested, and you failed. But failure is not the end. It is simply the beginning of understanding. The message was followed by another. The 30 seconds were a measure of your response to stress. Your instinct to retaliate, your impulse to fight, your reliance on technology, these things marked you as a species bound by fear. Fear that you would not survive. Fear that you would not be strong enough. Fear that you would be weak. But in your actions, we have seen your potential. You are not yet ready, but you will be. Jenna blinked in confusion. What does that mean? What do they want from us? The officer beside her offered no answer, but he knew as well as she did that this was not the end. If anything, it was the beginning of something far more profound. Chapter 14: The Waiting Game. For weeks after the transmission, humanity was left in a state of limbo. The aliens had not returned, and yet, no one could relax. There was no such thing as peace with an intelligence so vast and calculating. The world's remaining military forces were on high alert, but their power, stripped of all advanced technology, was almost non-existent. But life went on. Slowly, nations rebuilt. Slowly, society started to function again. There was an effort to pick up the pieces of the broken world, but the memory of what had happened remained fresh in people's minds. Those who survived the immediate aftermath struggled to make sense of the catastrophic misstep. Jenna had become something of an outcast in the military. Her decision to fire the first shot had haunted her. People whispered that it had been a fatal error, the worst possible thing they could have done. But the truth was that humanity's greatest fault wasn't the missile strike. It was their collective fear, their inability to understand the aliens' intentions. For a time, Jenna wandered the rebuilt streets of Washington, D.C., unable to shake the feeling that the aliens were still watching. She had hoped that humanity would have learned something, that they would have come to understand how to interact with beings far beyond them. But all they had done was delay the inevitable. Chapter 15: The Return. Then, one day, the message came again. This time, it wasn't just a transmission. Humanity's largest cities, the ones that had barely begun to recover, were shaken once more by the arrival of the alien ships. This time, there were no subtle landings. The ships descended, enormous and overpowering, blotting out the sun. A massive fleet of alien vessels surrounded the planet, their presence completely overwhelming. This was not a test. This was real. At first, there was no communication, no message. The world watched in fear, waiting for the inevitable annihilation. People once again took to the streets in a panic, thinking the war would begin anew. But this time, no one fired first. No one made the same mistake again. Then, after hours of silence, the voice of the alien intelligence reverberated once more across the earth. We have returned. Not to destroy, but to teach. The aliens had come, not to finish what they had started, but to offer humanity one final opportunity. They would teach humanity everything it needed to know about the cosmos, about survival, about their place in the universe. But this time, humanity would have to listen. Chapter 16: The Path Forward. The days that followed the second arrival were filled with intense discussions. Humanity's leaders, now much more cautious, opened their minds to the teachings of the aliens. They learned of ancient civilizations that had once flourished and fallen, of species that had faced their own trials and learned from them. Humanity was not being subjugated. They were being educated. Their greatest mistake had been their immediate reliance on violence, on fear. But the aliens had seen potential, a species capable of growth, of reflection, if they were willing to listen. Jenna Park, who had once been the symbol of humanity's rashness, became one of the leading voices in humanity's attempt to understand the aliens' purpose. She joined the coalition of world leaders, scientists, and philosophers tasked with guiding humanity into a new era, one in which fear and violence would no longer be the default response. Chapter 17: The Final Lesson. Years passed, and Earth's relationship with the alien intelligence grew. What had started as a test became an opportunity for mutual understanding. The alien races, those who had come to Earth initially to test humanity's worth, began to teach in earnest. The last lesson was the most crucial one. To fear is human. But to overcome fear and embrace knowledge, cooperation, and peace, that is what makes a species truly worthy. In time, humanity learned that the greatest strength was not in their weapons or their armies, but in their ability to adapt, to reflect, and to grow. Chapter 18: New Beginnings. Humanity had been irrevocably changed. The lessons imparted by the alien races, while often difficult to comprehend, had reshaped Earth's future. What had once been a planet filled with war, suspicion, and conflict was now, slowly, becoming a place of cooperation, knowledge, and peace. The aliens, though still an enigmatic presence, had become humanity's greatest teachers. By now, Earth had learned to coexist with the alien species, their guidance steering humanity away from its most destructive instincts. While the governments of Earth had once competed for power, they now worked in concert under the umbrella of a new, united global council. Nations once separated by borders and ideology were learning to work together as one. Colonel Jenna Park, having served as one of the primary human representatives in the ongoing diplomatic exchanges with the aliens, stood in a conference room overlooking a restored Washington, D.C. She had seen the transformation firsthand, a world once on the brink of destruction, now a symbol of hope and renewal. But even as Earth healed, the larger questions still lingered. What did the aliens want from humanity in the long term? Were they simply mentors, or was there something more? As the days turned into years, the nature of the relationship between humanity and the alien races began to take on an even deeper significance. Chapter 19: The New Purpose. The alien ships, which had once filled the skies with an ominous presence, were now almost an everyday sight. Their visits were no longer a cause for panic, but for reflection and collaboration. Instead of being seen as invaders, the aliens were regarded as guides, the first among many advanced civilizations who had come to help Earth in its evolution. One day, as Colonel Park walked into the newly established Earth Alien Institute for Intergalactic Diplomacy, she was greeted by an alien ambassador named Draxel. His appearance was still striking, an ever-shifting amalgamation of geometric shapes and glowing tendrils, but his presence, unlike before, was now seen as a sign of peace. "You've made remarkable progress," Draxel said, his voice resonating in Park's mind. "In just a few years, you have transformed from a species defined by fear to one that embraces knowledge. The path forward is not easy, but you are on the right course." Park nodded. "We've come a long way, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more we're not seeing. What are we really meant to learn from all of this? What is our place in the cosmos?" Draxel's form shifted slightly, as if contemplating her question. "Your species is unique. You are driven by your emotions, your fear, and your desire for control. This is both your greatest weakness and your greatest strength. We do not give answers lightly, for the journey of discovery must be your own. But rest assured, humanity has a purpose, and that purpose is far greater than you can yet comprehend." The ambiguity of the answer left Park with more questions than before, but she understood one thing clearly: Earth's future was bound to the stars, and the road ahead would be one of cooperation, learning, and above all, humility. Chapter 20: A Wider Universe. In the years following the alien arrival, Earth began to make unprecedented advancements in technology and space exploration. The technologies gifted by the alien races had enabled humanity to reach farther than it ever could have on its own. Faster than light travel, once a dream, was now a reality. The world began to send exploratory missions to nearby star systems, seeking out other civilizations and continuing the quest for knowledge. However, as humanity ventured farther into the cosmos, the realization began to set in: they were not alone. The galaxy was teeming with life, with species both ancient and young. Some were peaceful, while others were more warlike, just as Earth had once been. Humanity was now part of an intergalactic network, one that extended far beyond their home planet. It was during one of these early missions to a distant star system that Earth encountered a new alien race, one unlike any they had ever seen before. They were large, intimidating, and far more technologically advanced than humanity could have imagined. But unlike the aliens who had initially come to Earth, these new beings were not immediately open to cooperation. They were wary, defensive, and for the first time in humanity's interstellar history, Earth's peaceful overtures were met with suspicion. Chapter 21: The Test of Trust. The new species, known as the Valkyrie, had not yet fully revealed themselves to humanity, but their presence was undeniable. Their ships, sleek and terrifying in their design, began appearing near the colonies humanity had established. The Valkyrie made no effort to communicate. They simply observed, silent and watching from the shadows of distant planets. Humanity, having learned from their past mistakes, did not react with aggression. They knew that to do so would be to repeat history. Instead, Earth's leaders, along with their alien mentors, worked tirelessly to open a dialogue with the Valkyrie. It was slow going. The Valkyrie did not trust easily, and they saw humanity's history as a warning sign. Colonel Park was again called upon to help mediate these tense negotiations. As she entered the negotiation chamber, she could feel the weight of her responsibility. This was not just about saving humanity, it was about showing that they had truly changed, that they were no longer a species ruled by fear, but by a desire for cooperation and peace. But when the Valkyrie ambassador, a towering figure covered in thick, armored plating, finally spoke, Park realized just how fragile this new peace was. "You come to us offering peace," the Valkyrie ambassador said in a low, rumbling voice, "but your kind has shown no such restraint in the past. You have attacked without provocation. You have been driven by fear. How can we trust that you will not turn on us as you did with those who first came to your world?" Park stood before the ambassador, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. The moment that could define humanity's future in the galaxy. She knew that she had to prove that humanity had learned from its mistakes, that they could be trusted. "We have learned," she said, her voice steady, though she could feel the weight of every word. "We know what fear can do, and we have seen the consequences of letting it guide our actions. We are not the species we once were. We are stronger now, not because of our technology, but because we have learned to listen, to reflect, and to work together. Please, allow us the chance to prove it." The Valkyrie ambassador regarded her for a long moment, and the room fell into an uneasy silence. Finally, the ambassador spoke again, his voice still deep but less hostile. "Your words are bold, human," he said. "We will give you a chance. But know this, you will be watched. One misstep, and you will find that your place in the galaxy is very much uncertain." Chapter 22: The Choice. For months, Earth remained on edge as the Valkyrie continued their observation. But as time passed, a tentative trust began to grow. The Valkyrie watched humanity's actions closely, whether they were adhering to their promises, whether they were truly capable of building alliances in the galaxy. Then, something unexpected happened. A message came from a distant corner of the galaxy, a distress signal from a long-lost colony of an ancient species. The message was brief, but the coordinates were clear. A planet in the midst of a violent, unexplained catastrophe. The galaxy was watching. The Valkyrie, still suspicious, were waiting to see how humanity would respond. This was their true test. Would they act out of fear, out of self-preservation? Or would they rise to the challenge and offer help to those in need, even if it meant putting themselves at risk? Colonel Park knew what humanity had to do. They couldn't afford to falter now. The test wasn't just about responding to the alien races. It was about proving that they were worthy of a place in the greater galaxy. The Earth fleet was dispatched, a force made up of humans and their alien mentors. It wasn't just a mission of rescue, it was a mission to show that humanity had learned what it truly meant to be part of the galactic community. Chapter 23: The True Test. As the Earth fleet neared the planet, the devastation became apparent. The colony was on the brink of collapse, its population scattered and terrified. The cause of the disaster was still unknown, but one thing was certain: it would take every ounce of humanity's newfound strength to survive this crisis. Colonel Park stood at the helm of the command ship, watching as the team prepared to land. She knew that this was it. The moment that would define Earth's future in the galaxy. And then, as the fleet descended onto the dying world, she realized something profound: humanity had already passed the test. It wasn't the rescue that would prove their worth, it was the willingness to act, to choose compassion over fear, to step into the unknown without knowing the outcome. In the end, the aliens had not just tested humanity's strength, they had tested its heart. And for the first time in history, humanity had shown that it was ready not just to survive but to thrive. Chapter 24: The Unseen Threat. As the rescue mission on the doomed colony planet unfolded, it became clear that the disaster humanity was facing was not of their making. The strange devastation that had befallen the colony was the result of a phenomenon that no one had expected. It was a natural force, a cosmic anomaly of sorts that had ravaged the planet and scattered its inhabitants. But there was more to it than just a disaster. As the human and alien teams worked together to evacuate survivors and study the phenomenon, they discovered something unsettling. The anomaly was not an isolated event. It was spreading. And it wasn't just affecting planets. The entire star system surrounding the colony was destabilizing at an alarming rate. Energy pulses, gravitational anomalies, and strange radiation bursts were being detected across neighboring worlds. This wasn't a natural disaster. It was a force that seemed to be targeting civilizations, not just on the surface of planets, but across entire sectors of space. The Valkyrie ambassador had been watching the situation unfold, and now, for the first time, he seemed genuinely concerned. He met with Park and the other human leaders in a secretive meeting aboard the command ship. "Whatever this is," Draxel said, his normally calm and measured voice tinged with urgency, "it is not simply an act of nature. This phenomenon is engineered, intentionally created by someone or something. And it is expanding." Park nodded grimly, absorbing the gravity of the situation. "And it's coming toward Earth, isn't it?" The alien's shifting form flickered in what could have been considered a nod. "We cannot say for certain. But we have seen similar occurrences in other sectors of the galaxy. Anomalies like this are the signature of a force known to us only as the Convergence." "The Convergence?" Park repeated. "Who or what is that?" Draxel's expression grew more serious. "They are an ancient collective. A force from the darkest reaches of the galaxy. A civilization not unlike your own, but consumed by a single goal: universal domination. They move across the stars, using such anomalies as weapons to weaken and conquer. They have destroyed entire civilizations before, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake." Park felt a chill run down her spine. Earth was facing an enemy unlike any it had ever known. They had just begun to rebuild after the alien tests, and now, it seemed like the galaxy was on the brink of an even greater threat. Chapter 25: The Call to Action. With the knowledge of the impending threat, humanity, along with its alien allies, moved into action. The Earth fleet, now bolstered by the advanced technologies of various galactic races, was tasked with investigating the nature of the Convergence and, if possible, stopping it before it reached Earth. Colonel Park found herself at the heart of the operations once more, this time leading an expedition to the heart of the anomaly. The mission was dangerous, likely one of the most dangerous humanity had ever undertaken. But it was the only chance they had to stop the Convergence. The fleet was made up of ships from across the galaxy, each one representing a different race, each one offering its advanced technology and expertise. But it wasn't just a military campaign. It was a joint effort of scientists, engineers, diplomats, and strategists. The goal was not just to defeat the Convergence, but to understand it, to find a way to stop the anomaly from growing. "Stay focused," Park told her team, her voice resolute. "We're about to enter uncharted territory. There's no telling what we'll face when we get there, but we do this together, or not at all." As the fleet traveled toward the epicenter of the anomaly, they encountered a series of strange phenomena: distorted signals, shifting gravitational fields, and bizarre temporal effects. Time itself seemed to bend around them, as if the universe was warping in the face of whatever was driving the Convergence. The journey was disorienting, and the pressure was mounting. But Park had come to understand one thing over the course of her leadership: humanity's strength lay not just in their ability to fight, but in their ability to adapt, to learn, and to work together in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Chapter 26: The Convergence Revealed. As the fleet approached the heart of the anomaly, the source became clear. It wasn't a single ship, nor a single weapon. It was something far more terrifying, an ancient, dormant device that had once belonged to the Convergence. The device was massive, its structures sprawling across an entire moon, its machinery woven into the very fabric of the planet. It was a weapon and a catalyst. And it was awakening. "This is no ordinary machine," said an alien engineer who had joined the expedition. "It's a world-altering construct, capable of warping space and time itself. It doesn't just destroy, it reconfigures entire star systems." The alien ambassador Draxel had been silent for most of the journey, but now, his voice crackled through the calms with renewed urgency. "This device. It's not meant to just conquer, it's designed to erase entire systems. It doesn't just kill. It makes entire star systems and species cease to exist." The realization hit Park with a sickening force. They weren't just facing an invasion, they were facing total, cosmic erasure. "We don't have much time," she said, steeling herself for what was to come. "We need to stop that machine before it's too late." Chapter 27: The Battle for the Stars. The fleet launched an all-out assault on the Convergence device, but it was no ordinary battle. The machine's defenses were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Automated drones, electromagnetic pulses, and gravity wells attacked the fleet at every turn. The ships were forced to fight not just against the device, but against the very fabric of reality itself, as the anomaly began to twist space around them. "Brace for impact," Park shouted as a sudden wave of distortion sent her ship spiraling. The crew fought to maintain control, but the pull of the anomaly was immense. Ships were lost in the chaos, disintegrating under the crushing weight of the device's power. But humanity had come too far to give up now. The joint forces, using everything they had learned from their alien allies, managed to breach the outer defenses of the machine. The fight was brutal, with casualties mounting on both sides. But as they drew closer to the heart of the device, they discovered something that could change everything. The machine was not indestructible. It had a core, a vulnerable point, hidden deep within its complex systems. The only problem was, the core was located in the very center of the anomaly, where time and space itself seemed to collapse. There was only one chance to strike. Chapter 28: Sacrifice and Hope. The decision was made. Colonel Park would lead a small team into the heart of the machine to disable its core. It was a suicide mission, but it was the only way to stop the Convergence. She boarded the final assault ship, along with a small team of soldiers and engineers. The ship was equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had at its disposal, but even that seemed inadequate against the overwhelming forces of the anomaly. As the team prepared for their final approach, Park couldn't help but think of how far humanity had come. They had once been a species divided by fear, willing to destroy first and ask questions later. Now, they were willing to risk everything to protect the galaxy. "Whatever happens," Park said, her voice steady, "we've done what we set out to do. We've shown that humanity can be a force for good in the galaxy." The team entered the anomaly, and the ship shook violently as it crossed the threshold into the heart of the Convergence device. It was like entering a different dimension. Nothing made sense. Time bent. Space folded. But Park's resolve remained firm. They reached the core of the machine, and with one final, coordinated effort, they deployed the charges to destroy the device. But as they did, something extraordinary happened. The Convergence device didn't just deactivate. It began to collapse in on itself, as though the very existence of the anomaly had been tied to the machine. The mission had been a success, but at a great cost. Chapter 29: The Aftermath. When the dust settled and the anomaly was gone, the galaxy was forever changed. The Convergence had been defeated, but the damage had already been done. Entire star systems had been erased. Thousands of lives had been lost in the battle. Yet there was hope. Earth, now firmly established as a player in the galaxy, had proven its worth. Not just in terms of strength, but in courage, sacrifice, and a willingness to grow. Colonel Park returned to Earth as a hero, but she knew the real victory wasn't just in defeating the Convergence. It was in the unity and resilience humanity had shown. They had learned that the true strength of a species wasn't in its weapons, but in its heart, its capacity for growth, and its ability to choose peace over fear. And as Earth looked to the stars once more, they realized that this was only the beginning of their journey. The galaxy was vast, and humanity now had a place within it, a place built not through domination, but through understanding. Chapter 30: The Dawn of a New Era. The battle against the convergence was over. The galaxy, once trembling at the thought of humanity's rise, now stood in awe of the resilience and unity the human race had shown in the face of unimaginable threats. The world, ravaged by its internal strife in the past, was now a beacon of hope for the other species who watched from the far reaches of space. As the news of their victory spread, Earth became a symbol of the unexpected proof that even a species with a history of violence and chaos could evolve into something much greater. Yet, for Colonel Jenna Park, the victory felt bittersweet. The cost had been high. The survivors of the convergence had been few, and those who lost their lives in the mission left a scar in her heart that would never fully heal. The faces of the brave soldiers and alien allies who perished would haunt her as long as she lived. But there was no time to mourn. The galaxy was watching, and the future demanded focus. Earth's fleet returned to its homeworld, and the leaders gathered for a final briefing. Park, though now decorated as a hero, felt the weight of her role as a representative of humanity. It was no longer just about her. It was about ensuring that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. Humanity had made it through the test, but the real work was just beginning. The Alien Council convened, and their representatives stood side by side with Earth's leaders. The once ominous presence of the Valkyrie ambassador Draxel was now tempered by a recognition of mutual respect. Draxel's glowing form flickered, his voice reverberating in Park's mind, clear and steady. "You have done what many thought impossible," he said. "Your species has faced annihilation, and yet you rose. Not by force alone, but through understanding, sacrifice, and unity. The galaxy is not the same because of what you've achieved." Park stood at the center of the council, her heart swelling with pride. It had been a long, painful journey, but humanity had earned its place among the stars. The wounds of the past would take time to heal, but the future was wide open. "The convergence was but one challenge," Park began, her voice carrying across the room. "But our survival was not because we were the strongest or the most advanced. We prevailed because we learned to adapt, to listen, and to work together, not just as humans, but as members of a larger galactic family. We are here not to conquer, but to contribute, to learn, and to ensure that the mistakes we made are never repeated." Her words were met with a murmur of agreement from the council. The other species, some ancient, others newly discovered, nodded in solemn understanding. They had watched humanity with suspicion at first, unsure if the young race would become another destructive force in the galaxy. But now, there was no doubt. "The future is not defined by those who fear," Draxel intoned, "but by those who are brave enough to face the unknown with open minds and hearts. Humanity's journey is just beginning." Chapter 31: A Vision for Tomorrow. In the years that followed the Convergence's defeat, humanity's place in the galaxy was firmly cemented. Earth became the central hub for an interstellar alliance, a coalition of species working together to explore, protect, and preserve the balance of the cosmos. Earth's technological advancements, inspired by the aliens, reshaped their world, turning cities into thriving metropolises of innovation and cooperation. No longer a divided species, humanity united for a common purpose: to ensure peace and understanding across the stars. The work was ongoing. There were still dangers lurking in the farthest corners of space, and many unknowns that threatened the fragile peace. But Earth's leadership in diplomacy, scientific discovery, and intergalactic relations set a new precedent. They no longer sought to control, they sought to understand. Colonel Park, now a leader in the Intergalactic Council, stood on the balcony of the new Earth Command Center. The world below was a living testament to humanity's progress: lush green cities, expansive educational districts, and cultural hubs where humans and aliens interacted freely, exchanging ideas and forming friendships. It was a far cry from the fractured world she had once known, a symbol of what could be accomplished when people learned to grow together, not apart. Her gaze drifted to the horizon, where ships from various alien races were departing for their next mission, crossing the stars with the same unity they had fought for. Humanity had become the ambassadors of hope not through force, but through understanding. The Varkari, the Zirax, the Quesh aliens who had once viewed humanity as a threat now stood by their side as allies, coexisting in peace for the first time in history. Their shared experiences, their struggles, and their victories had forged an unbreakable bond. The galaxy was no longer a place of division and conflict but one of possibility. The stars shone brightly above Earth's cities, a constant reminder that the universe was vast, filled with wonders and challenges yet to be discovered. Humanity had taken its first steps into the unknown, and with each step, they proved that they were capable of more than anyone had ever imagined. A message arrived on the console in Park's office. It was from an uncharted star system, a distress call. The screen displayed coordinates to a distant world. Park leaned forward, her heart quickening. The journey wasn't over. There would always be more to discover, more to protect, and more to learn. She knew what she had to do. She pressed the comms button, and the response came immediately. Commander Park, we've received the coordinates. Shall we prepare the fleet for another mission? Park's voice was steady, resolute. Yes. Prepare the fleet. We'll face this new challenge together. Chapter 32, A Legacy of Unity. Years later, as Colonel Park stood before a vast assembly of leaders from across the galaxy, she couldn't help but feel the weight of history upon her shoulders. The Earth she had once known was long gone, replaced by a unified civilization that stood proudly at the center of the galaxy. The progress humanity had made, from their primitive, fearful beginnings, was something that had never been predicted. But it wasn't just humanity that had changed. The entire galaxy had evolved. The old divisions between species had all but disappeared. The convergence had been the catalyst for change, but it was humanity's perseverance, its willingness to adapt, and its capacity to sacrifice that had paved the way for the era of peace they now enjoyed. As Park addressed the assembly, she spoke not just of Earth's triumph, but of a future that was not limited to any single species, but rather an interconnected whole, a future of shared knowledge, mutual respect, and hope for the generations yet to come. The galaxy is vast, and the journey ahead is still long. But together, we are stronger than we ever could be apart. The legacy we build now will echo through the ages, not because of our technology or power, but because of the unity we've found through understanding. It is that unity that will see us through whatever challenges may come. The room erupted in applause, the sound reverberating throughout the grand hall. Park stood still, humbled by the weight of her words and the enormity of the task ahead. It was no longer just about surviving the galaxy. It was about ensuring that every species, no matter how distant, no matter how alien, had a chance to thrive. The stars above were no longer an unknown, terrifying frontier. They were home. And humanity had a place among them. As Park left the hall, she glanced up at the sky, a sky now shared by countless species, each with their own history, their own struggles, and their own hopes. Humanity had not only survived the test of the galaxy, but had helped to shape a new era, a golden age of cooperation and peace. And as long as the stars continued to shine, she knew that humanity's story was far from over.